right, welcome to our mental health talk that we're having here at the MCBC. My name is Ken, I'm one of the pastors here at the church, and what we're doing is we just are having these mental health dialogues, these little mini dialogues, just to resource each of us to maybe think through mental health a little bit differently. I have a guest with me here. Her name is Eunice, and she's going to share with us a bit about herself. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Eunice. I am a qualifying registered psychotherapist in the province of Ontario. I have recently graduated from Tyndale University with MDiv in clinical counseling.
Great. So as we have this dialogue together here, we just want to say none of this that we're going to be talking about is considered medical advice. All of this is really just us talking and giving some insight and some ideas for us to be a little more equipped to be able to break the stigma of silence and to also help us have healthy and open dialogue and safe dialogue with others. So again, if you are in need of help, we want to just encourage you to go get help. If it's through your family doctor, have an appointment with them, or if you're really in dire straits, go to your closest emergency room. As well, we also point people in the direction of CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health here in the Greater Toronto Area. So today we'll be discussing another challenging topic, one that's very broad actually as well. And we're going to be looking at addiction and what addiction is and how it happens. So why don't you start us off, Eunice? What is addiction? And we'll go from there.
So addiction is like a disease involving continued use of substance despite serious related problems or loss of control over using it. And it creates a lot of health problems or negative social consequences. We still continue to rely on this substance. So the bottom line is a behavior, is sort of an escape from an overwhelming emotion.
All right. So how can we look at addiction? Because there's so many different parts to it. There can be, I'm addicted to eating or binge watching television, to the more sensitive topics of pornography and drugs and alcohol. So it is a very wide range. Some of it socially are more acceptable than others. So with addiction, what are some of the things that maybe, how do we know we have an addiction?
It's very challenging because addiction can grow slowly and it's always not easy to see. And for many people with addiction, they continue to function in some parts of their life, no problem. Like they're still able to go to school and go over to work. But it's the idea of reliance and dependency on the substance. So you're using more than intended, and you recognize that there's you sort of feel like you're losing control. You have difficulty reducing the use, and there's significant time spent obtaining or using the substance. You have that craving, so you have a very strong desire. Though yes, some of us are able to continue to function, but we are also experiencing some other problems in other areas of life. You are able to work, no problem. You fulfill the major obligations, but you have some social problems. You're not able to engage in people in a healthy way. You're not able to function properly. And you also will recognize, as we mentioned, is the dependencies. Like, I cannot do this without this substance. When you recognize that, that's probably is a sign that you are growing, you're being addicted to this substance.
Okay, so what are some signs for us to look out for? I remember a lot of times, parents would come to me, how do I know if my son or daughter is addicted to video games? Or how do I know if my husband is addicted to pornography? Or how would I know? So what are some signs that we can look for to kind of help us understand addiction?
I would say addiction, sometimes we use it very too broadly. when parents will complain about video games or complain about food, but it's the excessive amount of time spent on using the substance. That's what makes addiction stands out. That's what makes it an addiction. And also your like that person is not able to stop from this substance use, not able to control, not able to stop them from using it. And they will do no matter what to obtain the substance. The more physical effects, as you will see that they experience sleeplessness. They will rather give up sleep to obtain the substance. There are changes in appearance because they care for the substance more than any other things. So you see there are change in appearance. There's also change in appetite. So these are the most common signs to look for.
So what are some ways that we can help others, or, well, let me start again. How will I recognize if I have an addiction?
It's really hard because it really depends on people how they define what it means by significant time spent. It means by using more than intended. But it's always okay to have a conversation. If I feel like I'm addicted to, for example, pornography, it's okay to talk about it. Either you go to a professional help, or you can talk to someone that you really trust to get that social support. And you can sort of to try, if I get off pornography, am I able to continue to function? Am I able to control that craving? Am I able to control that strong desire? Sometimes the craving is sort of like the allure into the substance use. So using some sort of diversions would help to buy yourself some time. So to avoid you being lured into the substance use. So when you feel that urge, you can go for a walk, do any other activities that do not involve that substance to help you to sort of divert you from that urge. But if you recognize that I feel like I'm not able to do that, even after an hour, I feel like I still have that strong urge, you probably want to go seek professional help. Okay. And don't do it alone. Have someone to give you that social support.
So then how can I be alert to the addictions of, a spouse or my children, or even my aging parents? Like, what are some of the things that I can look for so that I can maybe, I don't think a person can always identify for themselves their addiction. Like you were saying, it's hard for me to identify my own addictions. So you need the help and the outside perspective of someone else. So what can we look for, or what are some of the ways that we can approach looking at addiction?
Because addiction is a runaway from overwhelming emotions. How should I put it? So if someone you know that you have experienced, someone has experienced a significant change in life, you probably want to sort of like keep that person under your radar to see if that person is functioning well in work, in the social, and if has any physical effects. If they're sleeping well, they're eating changes in that person. If the person sort of starts to withdraw, social withdrawals, like I don't want to attend church anymore, for example, I don't want to attend any gatherings anymore. It's harder now because of pandemic, but it's to pay attention to any changes in that person. And any small changes, like that person is sleeping less or sleeping more. There's change in appetite. Then you may not, I'm not saying that can be addiction, because they're spending a huge amount of time on that substance. But it's okay always to address it. Be like, I've noticed that you're using this more, and talk about it.
One thing I guess we always see in movies and television programs, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times addiction, the person who has an addiction has to want to get help, they say. Like, so that's why those Alcoholics Anonymous, right? They always talk about, my name is so and so, and they have to admit they have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that really something that holds true in the real world? Like, as we sit here today, do people with addiction really have to acknowledge they have a problem to get help, or is that just a misconception in media?
Um, yes and no. They need to acknowledge there's a problem just so they can get help, and they're willing to participate, and they're willing to engage in all the interventions or treatments they're given. But sometimes, like you said, they're not able to recognize that. But there's also sometimes they don't want to admit it, because if you admit it, I need to get rid of it. If I need to get rid of it, I don't have that reliance and dependency anymore. We grow that dependency on the substance is because it gives us that comfort. It helps us to escape from that overwhelming pain that we're experiencing. So it's important that to help that person to find another way to sort out their feelings. So yes, they do have to acknowledge that, yes, I have a problem, so I will engage and participate. And no, it's because sometimes they really don't know.
Okay, great. Any sort of final thoughts on this idea of addiction, what we can think about, or some of the things, perspectives we should have when it comes to this?
Um, I think addiction, the hard part about addiction is there's this relapsing. So don't do it alone. Never, never try to do it alone. Even if you have successfully get rid of this addiction, don't allow yourself in any situation or any close to any possible event that will get you to the substance. For example, if I'm an alcoholic and I was an addict before, but I have recovered, there were people who be like, it's only one glass of wine. It's not true for someone that has this addiction before, because with that glass of wine, I find again that comfort, because our mind has registered that this substance gives me comfort. I like it. So even with some finding other replacement, when you get engaged with that substance again, our mind will automatically be like, I like it. This is good. I want it more. So it's easy for us to fall back into that addiction again. So don't do it alone. Have someone to keep you in check. Then don't get you close to the substance, or any situation will allow you to do that.
All right. One of the things that you were saying a lot about addiction here is that this is not something that people can do alone.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing. How then does, Christian community or, support, how does that look? I mean, it really requires us to really be very good at listening, doesn't it? And even the person has to feel so safe with us to be able to share their addiction. And sometimes I find it's what's an indictment to Christianity. Sometimes we are too judgy or we are too arrogant to really listen to people. So, hey, if you're watching this, we're just saying, be a person who's supportive, to hear a person and to help them journey through it. It's not a one-time thing. So I think that's something we can really take away when we talk about addiction. Anything else on this as we are sort of wrapping this one up?
Mm-hmm. When we look at someone that struggles with addiction, don't focus on the addiction. Focus on the person. This person is a person that is struggling with depression, struggling with like overwhelming loneliness. Then don't look at, oh, I need to treat the addictions. You don't have to, but you can provide some support for the loneliness, for the depression.
All right, great. So again, thank you for sort of tuning in on this. These are just little tidbits for us to maybe help us with our perspective on mental health, to maybe see things in a different light. But really, it's to break the stigma of silence and to open safe spaces for conversation and for dialogue. And so we don't want anyone to really suffer in mental health alone. So thank you again for being a part of this. Thank you, Eunice, for being a part of this. And we'll see you again next time.